With the NFL season right around the corner, what AFC future bets should you be getting in right now? Well, you're about to find out next on Bet On It. Kelly Stewart here, joined by Marco D'Angelo and Gianni, the Greek boys. Football season is finally here. I'm so excited. We're going to discuss some division winners today, as well as some teams to play on or against in the AFC, some teams to make or miss the playoffs, of course, some season win totals, and those Super Bowl champions. Let's get right into it. VR and I are in lockstep early on here in the AFC, so I'm going to let him go first. Actually, I lied. All three of us. We got a trio of three of us, all like the Buffalo Bills. VR, I'll let you have the floor first and hear what you have to say. I mean, this is just unprecedentedly chalky and disgusting. I'm ashamed of us already.
I know, but the thing is, you got to try to cash a ticket, and the probability is that the Bills are going to win this division. I think greater than minus 300. I think there's even greater than a 75% chance they win this division. I mean, this is a team that won 13 games in 2024. And if you look at the division, they're the only team that had a positive point differential. Everyone else allowed more points than they scored. So that's the first hill everyone else has to climb. Then they've overtaken the Patriots a long time ago, and they are now that team that wins it every year. They're going for 6 straight in the AFC East. I don't see anything changing. You have MVP quarterback in Josh Allen. Now, last year was a historic type of season. He's going to regress off that. It's going to be almost impossible to sustain that kind of production. But you don't need to in that division to still win it easily because they just have so many weapons on offense. They're first in the AFC as far as point differential goes. Only second to the Detroit Lions in the entire NFL. The only issue is health, because they don't have a lot of depth at the skill position level. So as long as they stay healthy, again, this team is only going forward because they have an upgraded defense now. They added some depth there. They added Joey Bosa, Hairston, Tre'Davious White. Like this, now they're not just that offensive team. They're just as loaded on the defensive side. They were number 1 in turnover ratio. I don't love that at plus 24. So they got a little bit lucky. And the number 2 team was Pittsburgh, and they had 8 less. So it shows you just how good of a season Buffalo had. Like they did everything right. And they only gave away 2 fumbles in the entire season. So again, their luck probably won't be that good, but it doesn't need to be to win that division because you look at everyone else. You look at New England. I know everyone's excited about them with Josh McDaniels coming back as the OC, but you got a new head coach in Vrabel. That's going to take a little bit of while. And even though they spent a lot of money in the offseason, I think the most in the entire NFL, and have an easy schedule, they only won 4 games last year. So how forward of a leap are they going to make? What are they going to win? 8 more games than last year? 9 more games than last year? That's not going to happen. Miami, same thing. They only won 8 games in 2024. The offensive line's a concern. Tua's durability is a concern. He's going to have weapons, but the defense allowed the least points in the division. I don't think they're going to have that kind of year again. Like, I think they're going to take a step backwards. The Jets, they're in rebuilding mode pretty much each and every year now with a new head coach, rookie in Fields. The production on offense is going to be a problem. They have an average defense. I just don't see who's going to overtake the Bills. They would have to, Josh Allen would have to get injured. They would have to have just so much bad happen to them to not win this division. I'm surprised they're not minus 400. Where they win it 8 out of 10 times, because I think it's right around there. It should be.
Marco, as you and I mentioned, there's a value here, right? VR said, hey, they should be priced even higher. But the reality is, even though there is no value, and we're probably not going to bet it, you can't make a case for the Jets, the Dolphins. No. Maybe you can make a case for the Pats. You mentioned in your notes that the Jets are undervalued, 18-1. I mean, the Jets aren't going to win this division.
The Jets aren't going to win this division, but I'm talking about where the Jets are undervalued. this is all the Bills division. Don't get me wrong. In minus 300, I agree with Ace. It should be higher than that. So if you want to say, hey, there's a little bit of value here, you can do it. In horse racing, we have a thing where they're called bridge jumpers, where they'll bet a horse that can't lose. They'll bet them to show and take that 210 return, 5% on their money. The beauty of that is their money's only tied up for 2 minutes. Okay. And then they get that 5% return. You're talking about if you want to lay with Buffalo for minus 300, you're laying your money for the whole football season before you can cash that. Now, for people that do this for a living and, have your bankrolls, you can make a significant wager and tie up that kind of money. For the average bettor, they can't. How much money can you tie up on, for a bet that you're going to only win, laying 3-1? They're not going to do it. Where I see value is I think the Jets are going to be underpriced. And I'm talking about on a weekly basis with the point spread. I don't think the Jets are going to be as bad as everybody thinks they are. And there's a couple reasons for that. Aaron Rodgers is gone. They couldn't get the job done with Aaron Rodgers. How are they going to get it done with Justin Fields? Well, Aaron Rodgers was hurt the first year he was there. And the second year, he had a slow start because he missed the entire season the year before. And he's ancient, in age. And we'll talk about him later now being with the Steelers. But Justin Fields, speaking of the Steelers, didn't get a fair shake last year. He was 4-2 in the 6 games he started for the Steelers. I think he's going to the Jets with house money, basically, because the expectations aren't high. You're coming in after Aaron Rodgers. If Aaron Rodgers couldn't get it done, what are the expectations of you? I think he really has a chance to excel. And if you look at this Jets team going back the last 5 years, they were a team that a lot of people thought were just a quarterback away from being a Super Bowl contender. And they thought once they got Aaron Rodgers, that would happen. They have a mobile quarterback that, again, was handcuffed with an offensive system when he was in Chicago, which was a nightmare. He actually was starting to show some signs of improvement in Pittsburgh, but because they had the commitment to Russell Wilson, he never got the chance. I think they are going to be a bettable team this year. Plus the points, you're going to get them in a dog a lot because of the undervalue. I think they're going to surprise some teams. That's what I mean. We're finding value in this division.
All right, let's move along to the AFC West. Now, I think it's funny. None of us picked the Chiefs here. And I think that kind of is for obvious reasons. Chiefs cheapest price to win this division in the last 5 years. Very, very telling. And that's because I think we're going to see 2 teams take a step forward. I'll talk about one of them and I'll let the boys talk about the other. John Murray told me back in June when we did an episode of Kelly and Murray that Broncos got bet to win this division. They got bet to go over their season win total. And I thought, whoa, wait a minute. I thought the Broncos kind of superseded some expectations. That is coming from the girl with the Broncos helmet behind her. But I do think Bo Nix in his second year is going to be very interesting with Sean Payton. I think my biggest caveat here and why I thought, all right, let's find a team that can go toe-to-toe with the Chiefs. And everyone seems to like the Chargers. Obviously, I'll get into that Chiefs disdain and value later on in the show, as I know the comments are going to want to say. And by the way, while we're on that subject, give us a like, hit that subscribe button. And if you think we're dead wrong, tell us in the comments. If you agree with us, we like those comments as well. VR, I'm going to let you go first. Talk to me about the Chargers and why you don't think it's going to be the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, I really do think this Charger team is live. And if, things fall right for them, I think they're going to surprise a lot of people. They won 11 games in 2024. They had a better point differential than the division winner, Kansas City. That offense scored the 5th most points in all of the AFC, and the defense allowed the least points in all of football, okay? They made the playoffs in Harbaugh's very first year. Bear has even more offensive weapons this time around. Now, the defense, all the talk is they lost Bosa, but they're still solid. They're still solid. If you look at their strength of schedule, too, it's average. It's mid-level. It's not as if they have the toughest strength of schedule this year. Now, Kansas City's still the division favorite, obviously. but with a revamped offensive line, 6th toughest strength of schedule, and only had the 5th best point differential in the AFC in 2024. So even though they represent the AFC in the Super Bowl, they were only 5th in point differential. Got a little bit lucky there. Now, you look at Denver, Bo Nix, second season, more weapons, but a little regression should be expected from an offense that scored the most points in the division and a defense that allowed the second least in all of the AFC. But they benefited from an easy schedule last year, that's for sure. You look at Vegas, rebuilding mode, Carroll's first year, everybody knows about that. Geno Smith, rookie running back. They just need a lot of help. Only 2 teams scored less points in the AFC than the Raiders. So they're just way behind, and they were tied for second worst in turnover ratio. 0 wins in the division in 2024. They pose absolutely zero threat. I like the Chargers to overtake Kansas City, and they're giving me 3-1 at that shot. Got to take it. 1 in 4 times they surpassed KC.
All right, Marco, anything to add to the Chargers analysis from VR?
Oh, Kelly, it's more where I'll go is I'll say why I didn't take Denver. The narrative is Kansas City is slipping back to the field and Denver and the Chargers are moving closer forward. You're going to be Team Harbaugh or you're going to be Team Peyton. The reason I think you're going to see a better step forward from the Chargers is this. They've got the veteran quarterback with Justin Herbert versus Bo Nix. He had a great rookie season. Can he duplicate that? I talked about it in the other video that we did. Sophomore jinx. The rest of the league has game film on him now. I think you've got a veteran quarterback that, remember, with the old coaching staff, and we made a lot of fun with the gambling that he did and everything. When I say gambling, the chances he took, on 4th downs and different things. This team was still very close to getting over the hump. Now they've got a good coach that is in his 2nd year. And compare what happened last year with Sean Payton from year 1 to year 2. You saw the big jump up. You're going to see that big jump up this year with the Chargers. And I think they have a better core in the veteran quarterback to make a bigger leap. I think this is the Chargers' year to get it done.
All right, let's move along to the NFC North, where VR and I are in agreement here. And look, Ravens, pretty chalky. Not horrifically chalky, but chalky enough that I don't think I would actually get to the window with them. It's not so much a play on the Ravens as I just don't see it being the Steelers, who, by the way, Aaron Rodgers and I are the same age. I know how I feel just sitting in this chair doing these shows, let alone getting hit by 250-pound men. Let's talk about Joe Burrow, his 6th season, running a little short on time. I do believe Lamar has finally bought into the system with Derrick Henry by his side. VR, tell me if there's some value here in laying the chalk with the Ravens. Minus 165 now currently is pretty steep.
A ton of value, Kel. And here's the key. Here's what you got to remember. I know that many recreational bettors don't want to tie up their money for 3 or 4 months at a minus 160. They don't mind doing it at plus 400, plus 500. But the goal is to place good bets and move on. And if you're bet sizing correctly based on your bankroll, then you shouldn't be worried about tying up your money long term. The only reason that becomes a problem is if you're over betting your bankroll or you're underfunded. That's it. Otherwise, you should want to place a bet where you're getting the best of it. And right now, the Ravens at anything less than minus 200 is giving you the best of it. This is a team that won 12 games in 2024. They were tied for first in the AFC in point differential with the Bills. Number 1 in yards per play was this Baltimore team, okay? They're the highest. At the end of the season, they were my highest power-rated team in the AFC. The fact they didn't win the Super Bowl is irrelevant. This is the NFL. They don't play 7-game series. The cream doesn't always rise to the top. There's a lot of randomness in the 60-minute football game. But when that season ended last year, Baltimore was the highest power. There was no one in the AFC that was going to be favored over Baltimore, okay? They were a top 3 offense and a top 3 defense, the most balanced out of everyone that made the playoffs. And they're trying to be the first team now in division history to win it 3 straight. Shows you how competitive this division has been. Harbaugh's now signed through 2028. There's comfort there. They return their offensive and defensive coordinators. So no new faces there. The defense was elite, and they just added more to it through the draft. On offense, they're loaded. The only question mark is the kicking game because Justin Tucker's finally gone, but he's aged now. So they're doing the right thing. You look at the rest of the division because that's what you have to fade. Cincinnati, offense, potent, scored third most points in the AFC, but they also allowed the third most points in the AFC. They got a new defensive coordinator and they picked up some draft picks, but you're not tested yet. So you can't take a flyer on them yet. I just don't think going out on that risk curve, the return is good enough so far. Pittsburgh, the end of the season, you saw how they unfolded. They lost 4 straight. They have a top 10 toughest schedule in 2025. And Aaron Rodgers isn't in his rookie season. So there's going to be questions marked there with the age and durability. Finally, Cleveland, worst turnover ratio, 6 more than the second worst. So they should get a little more lucky this year, but they won 3 games last season. How far are they going to progress with the second toughest schedule in all of football? How the Ravens aren't minus 200 is beyond me. Ton of value at anything less than that. Ravens win this one easy.
All right, Marco, tell me why you're being the contrarian here and taking the Bengals.
Well, to use one of your sayings, Kelly, I could have been a chalk-eating weasel and went with you guys. I don't disagree that the Ravens aren't the best team in the division, but, we want to find some value. And I really do believe that the Cincinnati Bengals present value. And what Ace said is 100% true. This team offensively is loaded. They are going to put up this year, I think you're going to be talking about like video game numbers, okay, with this offense. The question mark was the defense last year. Yeah, they made some improvements in the offseason, but will those transform onto the field? We'll have to wait and see. Obviously, it can't be any worse than it was, but what is going to be better is the start of the season. If you remember, the last few years, the Bengals have dug themselves holes. Every year at the beginning of the season, whatever the reason was, they got off to slow starts. Part of the reason a few years ago, Joe Burrow had his appendix taken out in, the middle of summer and then wasn't ready for the start of training camp. Missed valuable time, slow start. Last year, he was coming off of a season-ending injury the year before. There was rust. He was this coach doesn't like to play his starters in preseason. So they never hit the ground running. This year coming in, what'd they do? Week 1, starters saw time. They got the reps. They are making a concerted effort to get off to a good start, not dig themselves a hole. Because at the end of the season, everybody said, one team you don't want to play in the playoffs would be Cincinnati. Okay, you don't want to face that offense. And no matter how bad the defense was playing, that offense is a threat. The other thing, you know what? Joe Burrow, I think this is his year. And this is a spot where I am going to give you a bonus play. I'm going to take Cincinnati for the division at plus 275. But here's your bonus play for the division. I'm taking Joe Burrow to win the MVP this year. You can get him at plus 600. Why? Well, if everybody's right and this defense is as bad as they think it's going to be, and Joe Burrow's offense is as good as it is, he's going to light up the scoreboard, and he's going to carry this team, and he'll put up those video game numbers. And, yeah, when you talk MVP, what comes to mind? Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. All of those guys have won the MVPs in recent years. Okay, this is a league that sometimes when they hand out these awards, they'll give it to somebody on the do factor instead of giving it to a repeat. And one thing that other than Patrick Mahomes that Joe Burrow has in his corner that Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen don't have yet, he's actually made it to a Super Bowl. I'll take the Bengals plus money for the division, and I'll take Joe Burrow MVP.
Get 7 days of unlimited access or flex picks for just $69. Unlock 7 days of all access picks or flex picks for just $69, guys. That is less than $10 a day for all of the nonstop action. You're going to get NFL, MLB, UFC, WNBA, soccer, golf, and of course, much, much more. You're going to choose your expert, or you can switch things up daily with your flex access. This is the unlimited deal for the fans who want it all. All right, guys, we are all in lockstep here. And it makes sense when we're all in lockstep on the chalk, but now we're all in lockstep on a dog, a plus 350 dog. Marco, I'm going to let you go first. Tell me why we all like the Colts, because I think we're taking some crazy pills here.
I'll tell you what, Kelly, when I saw the sheet and saw that we all agreed on the dog, it scared the hell out of me. I'll be honest with you, because you're right. To land on a logical choice makes sense. But for all three of us to take the reach on the Colts, where we don't even know for sure who the starting quarterback's going to be, they want it to be Anthony Richardson, but, he's been injury prone. He's underperformed. They got an insurance policy this year in Daniel Jones. Personally, I think at some point, Daniel Jones is going to take over the quarterbacking duties of this team, and it will be his the rest of the season when he does it. You look at the Colts, and the reason I'm on them is I think Houston's going to take a step back. And we look at this Colts team, and over the last few years, they've been close. What they've missing was a quarterback. Okay. They tried a couple years when they tried somebody at the end of their career. Rivers come in here, Ryan come in here. Then they went the rookie route. That didn't work out. I think one of two things is going to happen. Either Anthony Richardson finally has the light bulb go on and he gets it and he stays healthy and everything's fine. I'll ride that. Or Daniel Jones gets the shot in a new system. He was in the Giants. We know what a nightmare that team has been over the last several years. Getting a fresh start here, I think he's better suited for this offense. This is a team that's got a solid offensive line. They've got a good defense. If they just get quality, consistent play at quarterback, I think they're a playoff team out of this division. And once you get into the playoffs, then anything can happen. I'll go ahead and take the Colts plus the 350, and let's see what happens as the season progresses. But wow, all three of us on a dog, Kelly. How often does that happen?
It does not. But the good news is you can even get plus 370 at the Westgate Superbook, because I'm guessing that's where our social media producer, John Hoagland, got that odd. So definitely shop around, guys. And that is really important when looking for these. Have multiple books at your disposal. They're all going to move off what they need. You could find an extra 10, 20, 30, 40 cents in some of these futures markets. So keep an eye there. I don't have much to add in addition to what Marco said. Does it matter if it's Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones? I don't think so. I think Shane Steichen is a great coach. They've got an upgraded defense and a healthy offensive line. VR, I know you're going to get into their schedule a little bit more amongst their running game.
Yeah, I mean, they were an 8-19 last year with a minus 50 point differential, but this is a different year altogether for them. They're going to have the 12th easiest schedule. And I like what Marco said. As far as the quarterback situation, that's the problem. It's the inconsistency of Anthony Richardson, because he's got so many weapons on the offensive side of the ball. He got Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman, a solid offensive line. They should be better on the offensive side of the ball, and I think they will improve this year. Defensively, you have a defensive coordinator with an improved defense based on the players they picked up through the draft as well. They're going to be extra motivated this year with the passing of Irsay. I just think this is a team that's completely being overlooked, and it's in a weak division. And getting that plus 350 is what is really attractive to me, because when I look at Houston, they won their third straight title in 2024 with 10 wins, and they have a solid defense. They allowed the least amount of points, but Stroud's he's going to regress this year for sure, I expect, because of that weak offensive line, new offensive coordinator, eighth toughest schedule. It's not going to be easy for this Houston team to repeat. Jacksonville, they only won 4 games last year because of the injury to Trevor Lawrence. A lot of weapons he returns. I even took a small flyer on him at MVP at 50-1. I don't suggest you do because the defense is still weak. Only one team allowed more points than them in the AFC, so they need to shore that up. And then you have Tennessee, who only won 3 games in 2024. They allowed the most points defensively, second worst turnover ratio in the entire NFL. They got Cam Ward for it, but it's going to take a while. They're in rebuild mode. Colts are live at plus 350. I think anything better than plus 250 is good. At 350, I think that's why we're all jumped on the same side.
Okay, let's keep this train moving. We're going to talk about teams we're betting on or against. VR and Marco have one in common. Marco, I'm going to let you go first. Let's talk about why you don't like my Denver Broncos or your Pittsburgh Steelers.
You see that? You see how I'm going against my Pittsburgh Steelers? I have no problem going against the hometown team. I look every year when we enter the NFL season, what teams are getting the hype and the talk and where the excitement is in the off season. Okay. And the remarkable surge that you saw last year from the Denver Broncos in year 2 of Sean Payton being the head coach, everybody automatically, assumes it's going to be another step forward this year. I'm not sure about that. I talked about that with the Broncos, and can Bo Nix carry that into the, his second season? That's a team that's gotten a lot of hype. That's why I think they're going to be overpriced. Will they be a good team? Yeah, probably. Are they going to contend with the Chargers to try to overthrow the Kansas City Chiefs? Yeah. But I'm talking on a week-to-week basis. I think they're going to be priced overvalued. I think when they are a favorite, they're going to be laying too many points. When they're an underdog, you're not going to be getting what you should be getting with them. So I'm looking to go against Denver. And as far as the Steelers go, was there any more drama than any team in the offseason than where's Aaron Rodgers going to be? Where's Aaron Rodgers going? Is he signing with Pittsburgh? Is he not signing with Pittsburgh? That was his last hope, but he still didn't sign. He waited and waited, and finally he signed. Well, now the Steelers, everybody remember how good of a start they had last year. And then it all come crumbling down when Russell Wilson flamed out at the end of the season. So everybody's assuming that won't happen this year. It wasn't just Russell Wilson where the problems were last year. One of them they got rid of. Pickens, he's no longer there. He's at Dallas. But I just don't see this team being able to do what they're going to need to do regarding the point spread on a week-to-week basis. They're going to be, just like I said with Denver, when they are a favorite, they'll be too big of a favorite. When they're a dog, they're going to be undervalued. Let's wait and see what Aaron Rodgers does. But I'm going to tell you, first few weeks of the season, I'm going to be looking for the spots to go against the Steelers on a weekly basis.
Gianni, add to what Marco said about the Steelers and why you are saying they are also a bet against team for 2025.
They got very lucky last year. Remember, they were plus 16 in turnover ratio, putting them in second best in all of the NFL. They have a top 10 toughest schedule, like we touched on multiple times. They really outperformed the betting market last year. Pay attention to that. They went 11-6 against the spread. I don't see that happening this year, especially with the Aaron Rodgers tax that's going to be attached to that Pittsburgh Steelers team. I think they're a fade. You saw them crumble down the stretch when they needed to win some ball games, and I think they're going to have some problems in that division, especially with the Cincinnati Bengals. I think it's a fade of the Steelers. You got Baltimore there. You have Cincinnati there. I think Pittsburgh's going to have a lot of problems. Fade Pittsburgh, look for spots throughout the season as well, especially early on, because if Rodgers gets banged up, it's a different story. They may be undervalued at that point. But to start the season, it's a different story.
Yeah, as if we haven't talked about the Buffalo Bills enough. They're going to be a bet on team for me. They exceeded their season win total for 8 straight seasons now under McDermott. So keep an eye on betting their season win total over. Does that mean, though, that there is value week to week? I actually do think so. One of their biggest issues has been their defense. And this season, they used all 5 draft picks to fill those holes. We know, as we've talked about with several other teams, it is Super Bowl or bust. I think Buffalo is one of those bet on teams again for the season. And if you missed the analysis for the first 15 minutes of the show, while we sat there and talked about the Buffalo Bills, scroll on back and listen over there. Now we're going to get into the playoffs. I asked the guys, I said, hey, I need a plus money team to either make the playoffs or a heavy favorite to miss the playoffs. I'm going to let Marco go first. Marco, tell me why you like the Texans plus 125 not to make the playoffs.
Well, it's simple. We all like the Colts. We think the Colts have a big shot to win that division because I expect regression from the Texans. And this is a division, plain and simple. Two teams aren't coming out of here for the playoffs, okay? It's going to be the division winner, and that's it. And I don't think the Texans win the division. So I don't see them making the playoffs as a wild card. You've got too many other divisions that have much better teams that are going to have better records. We talked about probably two teams out of the AFC North with Baltimore and Cincy. We got Buffalo. It'll be one and done there. But you've got Kansas City, the Broncos, and the Chargers. All three of those teams could make the playoffs. So where's Houston going to fit in if they don't win their division? That's why I'm going with Houston not to make the playoffs at plus 125.
Okay, VR, you also like Houston not to make the playoffs. But before you add on to what Marco said, please let us know what you have going on for football season over at WagerTalk.com.
Yeah, you only want to jump on board 2025. Really excited for NFL and college football. Right now, I have up my futures package, which includes NFL and college football combo. Over about 9 or 10 already in there, including a 5% big move. The rest will be 4% because only best bets are going into that package. You'll get a lot more between now and kickoff. Otherwise, it's week by week. Looking forward, like I said, and especially make sure bet on it each and every week. I will be sharing a ton of gold. I'll have a lot throughout the season. So excited for 2025.
We are excited for that gold, those steam plays that we love to see every single week. But first, VR, you have to tell me why you think the Texans take a step back. As Marco mentioned, we all like the Colts, and that usually correlates with the teams above them stepping back. But nobody's really talked about the Jags. Do we also think the Jags are going to regress even further than they did the last two seasons?
No, not really, because I'm hoping a healthy Trevor Lawrence improves that team. But I just think they're just way behind. Like, they have a lot to make up, having won only 4 games last year. This Texas team was the Texans were as phony as a $3 bill. I mean, they won 10 games. They won the division, but they had a 0-point differential. That's not like you play that season out 10,000 times. They're not going to win 10 games with a 0-point differential in the NFL. So they really got lucky. That's not going to happen back-to-back years, especially when you have an 8th toughest schedule in all of football. Again, a healthy Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville. Tennessee, what's Tennessee really going to do? They were the worst team in all football, but they're excited with the number 1 draft pick. And then you have the Colts, which I think are on the up. So this is going to be a big test for Texans, and I just don't think they're that team. They're not that team that's going to take over and now be dominant in that division. So fade the Texans. Look for spots throughout the season as well, especially early on. Another overvalued team going into 2025.
All right, I need everybody to brace themselves. Do not freak out, because I can hear the comment section now. Kelly's just a Chiefs hater. That is not the case, but I do think there's a lot of value here in betting Chiefs not to make the playoffs plus 340. Not only is their schedule just absolutely brutal, they play 9 playoff teams in 7 primetime games. Also, let's take a step back. When's the last time Kansas City lost a Super Bowl? Oh, that's right, to the Bucs. And then they followed it up with an 8-9 season. I will say this. I was reading Mark Lawrence a couple of weeks ago, and he almost scared me off this bet with the stat. 40 of the last 57 Super Bowl losers have still made the playoffs the following season. But as we've spoken about the AFC West, and the Broncos and Chargers both looking very competitive. I'm going to take the Chiefs and Andy Reid to take that step backwards and not make the playoffs. Time to get into those Super Bowl champions. Marco D'Angelo, I'm going to let you go first, but please let everybody know what you have going on at WagerTalk in terms of specials.
Well, we got a special going right now. You can get the entire football season, college and pro, through the Super Bowl. Not only me, but pairing up, we're packaging it with Ben Burns. You can buy me by myself. That's still available. But if you want to get the top 2 football handicappers from last year, college and football combined, money won. Ben was number 1. I was number 2. You can get both of us for $1,498. That's a discount off of buying us individually. And it also has a bonus. You'll pick up a 7-day flex package from both of us where you can use for baseball, WNBA, any other plays that we have. Whenever we have a big play or something and you want to grab it, you'll have 7 opportunities to do it with a 7-day flex package that you can stretch that out whenever you like. So check that out over at wagertalk.com right now.
Okay, Marco, tell me why you like the Cincinnati Bengals to win the Super Bowl.
Well, Kelly, I was between 2. I could have went with the Chargers or I could have went with Cincinnati. Those were my 2 picks for the long shot to win the Super Bowl. But I have been talking the Bengals the entire show, so why stop now? I'm going to go ahead and take the Bengals. And as I mentioned when I talked about him for MVP, the one thing that Joe Burrow does have on his resume that Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson doesn't is he was able to beat the Kansas City Chiefs in an AFC playoff game to get to the Super Bowl, where those other guys have not yet. I think they have a big shot this year, but if you want to split the bet, I have no problem taking the Bengals at 22-1 for the Super Bowl and to take the Chargers at plus 25-1. I think the AFC is more wide open and more vulnerable. I know everybody likes the top 2, Buffalo in Baltimore, but Kansas City is still there, which gives value because people still believe in them and Patrick Mahomes and the Swifties. I had to get one Swiftie in on the show.
Swifties. I don't know. Just as you were saying that, I was on Instagram and noticed Travis Kelce's GQ shoot. Yeah. Anyway, VR, you're going to take the Chargers since Marco was undecided. So tell me why you think Jim Harbaugh, good grief, Jim Harbaugh is going to win a Super Bowl.
I just put a dime right now on the Chargers at 25-1. They're now 24 plus 24.75 at Sports 411. So if you're looking at your odds screen, I like your Chargers play, and that's what I gave out. I like Cincinnati as well, Marco, and that was a sharp play, Burrow to win the MVP at 5-1 or greater. You could get 6-1 out there. That scares me a little bit. Cincinnati's probably worth a sprinkle. But I really do think this Charger team should not be 25-1. Baltimore at better than 6-1 surprises me as well, to be honest with you. I thought they should be a little higher than that. And in fact, I'm seeing Baltimore at 7-1 in some spots. But at 25-1, again, this is an 11-win football team last year. They had a better point differential than Kansas City. I'll repeat that. Kansas City lost the Super Bowl last year. Kelly gave that trend may make the playoffs, but I do think they're going to take a step back. This is one of the most potent defenses in all of football. I think the overreaction to the Bosa loss isn't warranted because, again, they're just loaded everywhere there. And I think the offense takes another step forward. Hopefully they protect the football as well as last season. They have a tough schedule this year. I mean, an average schedule this year compared to a tougher schedule prior. So I think the Chargers, again, at 25-1, just get into the playoffs. And with all that equity, we should be able to make some money off them.
And that's exactly why, VR, I like the Denver Broncos at 25-1. We mentioned Bo Nix, possible sophomore slump. And I think that he is going to be able to come out of this under Sean Payton and not regress. Another thing that I think is We're going to see a better defense. Yes, they had one of the best defenses in the league last year. So that helped Bo Nix in making some of those rookie mistakes. But this defense is going to be a top 3 defense in the league. I know last year they had no running game, and it was so frustrating with Javonte Williams in the backfield. But they got 2 rookie wide receivers to take his place. A great offensive line for those 2 and Bo Nix to play behind. And speaking of positive regression, which has been the name of the show, Broncos last season 1-6 in 1-score games. We're going to see if things don't start to go their way. Are the Broncos going to win the Super Bowl? No, of course they're not going to. Is there value in them at 25-1? Yes. I actually think the Baltimore Ravens are finally going to get the monkey off their back and win the Super Bowl this year, but there's not a lot of value there, guys. Just my personal opinion. Let's bring back in Marco and VR. Say goodbye to you guys. I won't see you guys for a whole week. If you guys want to catch the NFC version of this show, you can watch it right here on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. And if you're into betting college football, you can check out our college football preview of Bet On It, both up right now on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. Guys, we'll be back for NFL Week 1 for the NFL edition of Bet On. Of course, we'll be back next week. I'll be live from Ireland to talk about those 5 college football games. Until next week, let's bet on it.